The corner smells like exhaust and fried food. You stand with your back against the wall of a bodega that closed an hour ago. The metal security gate behind you is cold through your shirt. The street in front of you is mostly empty. A dog moves along the opposite sidewalk. A car passes without slowing. You've been here for 2 hours. You are 14 years old. The man who told you to stand here is somewhere behind you, inside a building you haven't been allowed to enter yet. You don't know his full name. You know what they call him. You know he controls 3 blocks in each direction. You know that standing here, doing this, is the beginning of something. You don't know what you're watching for exactly. You watch everything. A woman walking with grocery bags. A man on a bicycle. Another car. Headlights sweeping the intersection without stopping. You say nothing. You have no power here. But you are here. And being here is the first thing. Stage 1. The corner. The man's name is Dre. He finds you after your second night and asks you what you saw. You tell him. Every car. Every person. The time the police cruiser came through, 11:15, and again at 1:40. The delivery truck that parked for 8 minutes on the East End. Dre listens to all of it. He doesn't tell you that you did well. He asks one more question. What did the cruiser do when it came through the second time? Slowed down at the corner. Didn't stop. He nods. He hands you $40. He tells you to come back tomorrow. You come back tomorrow. The neighborhood is a grid of specific territories that you learn like a map you can't write down. Dre's operation runs from the bodega on Crane Street to the laundromat on 9th. East to the empty lot behind the church. West to the apartment complex with the broken fountain out front. Inside this geography, everything has an order. Lookouts at the edges. Runners in the middle. Holders at fixed points who carry product but don't move. A small group of men closer to Dre who you rarely see, who speak to him directly, who walk differently than everyone else. You study all of them. You are still the smallest thing in this system. But you are learning its shape. Stage 2. Learning what costs what. The first rule is also the most important rule. You don't speak about the work outside the work. Not to your mother. Not to your cousin. Not to the girl you like at school. Not to anyone who exists in the life you go home to. The separation is absolute. You learn it fast because you see what happens when someone doesn't keep it. A boy 2 years older than you makes a mistake. He says something at school to the wrong person. Within a week, he's not on the corner anymore. He's not anywhere visible. You don't ask where he went. You understand. The second rule, everything you're given is an investment, not a gift. The $40 was not a reward. It was a signal that you were being considered for the next thing. That next thing comes with obligation. The obligation comes with consequences. You accept this. Dre has a man named Calvin who functions as his direct enforcer and manager. Calvin is 26. He doesn't raise his voice. Ever. You notice this about him early, that the less he speaks, the more carefully everyone listens. He moves through the operation like a correction mechanism. When something is running wrong, Calvin appears. When Calvin appears, things correct. You watch Calvin more than anyone else. You understand that Calvin is the model of what you want to become. Not Dre yet. Dre is too far above you to be the model. Calvin is the step you can actually see. You study him. Stage 3, becoming trusted. At 15, you become a runner. You know what you're carrying. You've known for a while. You carry it between fixed points with the specific ordinariness of someone going somewhere unremarkable. You are fast. You are accurate. You remember instructions exactly. You never open anything you're given to carry. Calvin notices. He moves you off the corner entirely. You work directly under him now. More responsibility. More exposure to how the middle of the operation actually functions. You see the accounting, not full numbers, but the rhythm of it. Money coming in, money being distributed, money moving out of the neighborhood through channels you start to understand piece by piece. You realize something important. The corner is where the risk is highest and the money is lowest. The men closest to Dre have less street exposure but more information, more authority, and significantly more money. You understand that moving toward the center is the only direction worth moving. You move carefully. The summer you turn 16, you prevent a problem. You notice something wrong. A new face appearing in the operation who doesn't fit the pattern. Too watchful in the wrong way. Asking questions through casual conversation that aren't actually casual. You bring it to Calvin quietly with specifics. Calvin looks at you for a long moment. He handles it. 3 days later, Calvin tells you that you were right. The face was an informant, a low-level one, newly placed, not yet operational. The problem has been removed before it became a problem. Calvin tells Dre. Dre, for the first time, looks at you directly. Stage 4, responsibility. You are 17. You manage a corner that isn't yours by birth or tenure. Dre assigned it to you over 2 older members who expected the position. This creates tension. You understand the tension clearly and you don't react to it with dominance. You react to it with competence. You make the corner run better than it has run before. You keep the conflicts internal and resolved before they become visible. You build loyalty through consistency. The 2 men who resented your placement are working smoothly under you within 3 months. Not because they like you. Because you're reliable and fair and you protect the people beneath you when problems arise. You're learning what leadership actually is in this environment. Not loudness. Not intimidation. Predictability. Protection. Reliability. Calvin is arrested on a Tuesday morning. It is sudden. It changes the structure of the operation overnight. Dre has to reorganize. He needs someone to fill Calvin's function immediately. He calls you in. He doesn't offer the position formally. He gives you a set of responsibilities and watches how you carry them for 30 days. You carry them correctly. At the end of 30 days, nothing is said directly. You simply continue. The responsibilities don't return to anyone else. You understand. You are now the closest thing to Calvin that exists in the operation. You are 18. Stage 5, 40. At 20, you sit in rooms where decisions are made. The operation has expanded under your management. A second territory acquired through a negotiation you handled directly. A relationship with a supply chain that reduced cost and increased reliability. 2 new positions created beneath you that didn't exist before. Dre is present-less. He manages relationships at a level above the daily operation, with people in the city whose names you're starting to learn, whose cooperation makes large things possible. He trusts you with the daily operation almost completely. This trust is the most valuable thing you've accumulated. It is also the most fragile. You have 11 people working directly under you. You know all of them. Their tendencies, their weaknesses, the things that motivate them and the things that make them careless. Managing this many people is different from managing a corner. It requires a different kind of attention, less physical, more psychological. You are good at it. People who work under you feel that you see them. Not warmly, exactly, this is not a warm environment. But accurately. You respond to people based on what they actually are rather than what you want them to be, and this accuracy creates a specific kind of loyalty. The operation runs. Stage 6, what power attracts? The problem arrives in the form of a man named Marcus. Marcus runs an adjacent operation. Different territory, some overlap. The overlap has always been managed through informal agreement, a border that everyone respected because everyone understood the cost of not respecting it. Marcus decides the cost is worth paying. He expands into your territory. Not aggressively, incrementally. Testing. Probing. Looking for the response that tells him how much further he can go. You give him a response. Not through confrontation. Through economic pressure, methodically cutting off 2 supply relationships Marcus depended on, using connections you'd built over 3 years for exactly this kind of situation. Marcus feels it within 2 weeks. He sends a middleman to discuss terms. You set the terms. He accepts them. The border is restored. Reinforced. Dre hears about how you handled it. He says 3 words, "That was right." The other problem is internal. A man named Torres, who has been in the operation longer than you have, begins undermining you in ways that are hard to see directly. Slow work. Small insubordinations that don't rise to the level of confrontation but accumulate into friction. You watch him for 6 weeks. You identify the men he's building relationships with. You understand what he's constructing. You go to Dre with documentation, not accusation. Dre listens. He asks questions. He confirms your assessment through his own channels. Torres is reassigned to a position with no authority and no information access. He leaves the operation entirely 3 months later. You feel no satisfaction in this. You feel vigilance. Because Torres will not be the last. Stage 7, the top. Dre retires at 51. Not publicly. Not ceremonially. He simply reduces his involvement over 18 months until it reaches 0. Pieces of what he managed pass to various people. The core of the operation, the decisions, the relationships, the direction, passes to you. You are 26 years old. The transition is quiet. The people who mattered in the operation already knew it was coming. You had been the functional center for years before the formal center shifted. So when it shifts, the adjustment is minimal. You sit now in the position you watched from the corner at 14. It looks different from here. The view from the top is not what you thought it would be. At 14, from the corner, power looked like freedom. Like the absence of someone else's rules. Like the ability to make the world organize itself around you instead of the other way around. What it actually is, accountability with no one above you to absorb the consequences. Every problem reaches you eventually. Every decision that can't be made at a lower level comes up the chain and stops at your desk. The people beneath you are your responsibility, their safety, their income, their mistakes. When things go wrong, the impact travels upward. It rests on you. You are 30. The operation is larger than it was under Dre. More complex. More profitable. More dangerous in ways that didn't exist 10 years ago. More law enforcement attention, more federal presence, more sophisticated surveillance. You adapt constantly. You restructure. You limit exposure. You build layers of separation between the visible and the real. You have not been arrested. This is either skill or luck, and you are honest enough with yourself to know you don't know which percentage is which. You think about the boy on the corner sometimes. 14 years old. Back against a cold metal gate. Watching everything. Saying nothing. You think about what you would tell him if you could. Not don't do it. That conversation is too simple for what this actually was. The corner didn't feel like a choice. It felt like the only door that was open. And walking through open doors is what survival looks like when you're 14 and the other doors are closed. What you would tell him is this: the cost is longer than you think it is. It doesn't collect in one payment. It collects across years. In relationships that the work destroys. In sleep that stops coming easily. In the specific exhaustion of never being fully off, never being fully safe, never being fully separate from what you've built and what you've become. You have money. You have authority. You have power over more people and more territory than Dre ever controlled. And you are always, underneath all of it, the boy on the corner. Watching every car. Calculating every approach. Waiting for the thing that comes without warning. Your phone lights up. A name you recognize. A problem that needs your attention. You look at it. You pick it up. You start talking. Outside, the city does what it always does. And you do what you always do. You manage it. You survive it. You move forward into whatever comes next. Because stopping is not a thing this life allows. Not really. Not anymore.